Thank you. My name is Jamie Kirchick. I'm a fellow with the Foundation for Defensive Democracies based in Washington. And I'm delighted to have our panel here today. And if I could ask the Russians on the panel, Pyotr used the word revolution to describe what's been happening. Is that accurate? Is that what you're seeking, or is it something more gradual?
Well, a very big problem with the Russian politics right now is that Putin's system on the 13th year of its existence, it's no longer able to reform. It's lost its capability. So all these, there was only one chance for the system to change, and this was for President Medvedev to go on to serve as president for the second term. And all these hopes that a big part of Russian society did have instantly vanished on September 24th, when they had this lavish United Russia Congress, which was in the media absolutely the same as the Communist Party Congresses, which were going on in the country for 7 years. And during this Congress, Medvedev just goes up on stage and says, "I think the best candidate to run the country is Vladimir Putin." Applauds. And everyone's like, what? So in the country was, at that single moment, it was 1:30 p.m. September the 24th. A lot of people realize that now the only chance for Russia is revolution, because this system is not going to reform. It's not very much different from North Korea and China right now. Putin getting the third term, this police violence which start to appear in Moscow streets as a reaction to big protests. So revolution in a certain way is really the only outcome.
Dennis?
Well, as I mentioned, Medvedev has done something after the winter protests, and still we don't know yet. Is it a real intention of the authorities to give us some more space, or that I believe is just a trick, and they are going to play their own game and to press again and to close this small window that they tried to open. I don't believe in the abilities of the system to reform itself. It should be reformed by the people.
So I just want to ask Garry, is the word revolution accurate? I mean, obviously, Russians have been through a lot in the 20th century. The 90s, some people argue, was a little too much change, too fast. What is it that can realistically be done in the next couple of years?
I almost got shocked. I never heard Denis being so modest mentioning Medvedev's name. I don't know, maybe the atmosphere, is just is too comfortable. Again, just making a very brief comment, I think Medvedev was merely a shadow who just, always tried to create an illusion. It's very important to create illusions to bring down the opposition movement. And as for the main issue that is just at the center stage today is about revolution, it's very clear that Putin's intention, that now it's clear for everybody, to stay in power forever. Now, forever, it's something that many people in my country, many of my compatriots, especially the young, creative middle class in big cities, and especially in Moscow, is not going to accept. And we could see this very clearly just on May 6th and with the following days. So there's a clash. And the clash means that at one point, people with all their intentions to stick to the nonviolent resistance, they get really angry. And the outcome of these clashes between Putin's police, riot police, and angry crowd, it's highly unpredictable. So that's why I think the change in power in Russia will not be through the ballot box.
Would you like to say anything?
Yeah, I personally also think that as much as I don't like to use the word revolution, because it seems to have been given, at least in Russia, it has a bad name. People, even those who disagree with what's going on, even those who don't like Putin very much, they say, "Oh, revolution! No, that's too scary." Because they probably see blood, tons of blood on the streets, etc. But I do not see any change through the ballot either. I see it would have to be done somehow differently. Ideally, I would like to force Putin out somehow. We're taking small steps in that direction. We don't know when it will actually hit the target, so to speak. Put him on trial, put his crew on trial, form coalition government, and announce new elections. You know, that would be a scenario that I would see as ideal.
I want to ask Eli a question about the grander strategic picture and then let you guys comment. We're now over 3 years into the reset policy of the Obama administration. And from my vantage point, it doesn't seem like the United States has gotten much out of this. And it seems like that Moscow has really just kind of laughed all the way to the bank. Could you lead us through what the view is from Washington on this? What has the U.S. conceded, and what have they gotten in return?
Well, we spoke about the moment when Medvedev announced how he believed that Putin should rule the country again. And this really was a humiliation for the proponents of reset in the Obama administration, because the entire policy was premised on the idea that American engagement with Medvedev would strengthen him against Putin, as if these were two separate entities. And I know that you, Gary, we've talked about this, you told them you're getting it all wrong. Several times you said you're getting it all wrong. They're working in concert. They're not really rivals, and they wouldn't hear it. And you know, Michael McFaul, who's now the ambassador, who has a terrific track record as an academic in supporting Russian civil society and has done great things in a lot of ways, and in fairness was in some ways a dissident voice in favor of more pressure on Putin, has not been very effective, has been humiliated by the FSB, his personal schedule being given to pro-Putin journalists. And, you know, there's an arms control agreement limiting strategic nuclear weapons, and from a non-proliferation perspective, this is an achievement. And the Russians have been working in their interest finally when it comes to the Iranian nuclear program.
But they're still in Georgia.
But still occupying Georgia. They're supplying Bashar Assad with advanced drones and advanced weaponry as he slaughters his opposition and slaughters many of his own civilians. And they're continuing to consolidate power. And, you know, listen, there is a hard-headed point that some will make, which is to say America has its own interest, independent of human rights, independent of democratization in Russia. But the question is, if you want to continue to be hustled by Putin and, you know, being told you better be nice to me or else I'm going to do all these things that are going to make your life miserable, then say nothing and do nothing as he consolidates his authoritarian rule.
Gary, when President Obama was overheard promising Mr. Medvedev that he could be more flexible following his re-election, was this something that you felt betrayed Russian civil society? Was this something that surprised you?
Probably betrayal is a strong word, because I didn't expect much from Obama or from any American administration. I saw many after Ronald Reagan, and they were very much alike. Those Democrats are Republicans. They all try to be pragmatists, and just not recognizing that you could do business with non-democratic regimes. There's certain situations. For instance, Churchill had no choice but to make a deal with Stalin. It was a matter of survival of his country. But clearly at that time they had common interest to defeat Hitler. Now I wonder what is a common interest today, because when you look at the Putin's agenda, Putin's Russia agenda, and the US agenda, and their strategic interests, they're falling apart. Right. Putin needs high oil prices, which means he needs war in the Gulf, because there's no other way to see oil prices going to 150 or 200 unless there is something terrible happens in the Gulf. America wants the opposite. So Putin is very happy with Americans being in Afghanistan, because America sacrificing resources and human lives protects southern border of ex-Soviet Union and eventually Russian interest from Taliban. If America is out of Afghanistan, most likely Taliban will move north, hurting pro-Putin's dictatorial regimes in Central Asia. So I think it's for Putin is a win-win situation, because he doesn't sacrifice anything that is so vital to him. The only real danger for Putin is bank accounts and visas. That's a big issue.
So this is the Magnitsky Act.
Yeah, Magnitsky, and that's where the entire power Russian state has been mobilized to threaten Americans to cut the transit to Afghanistan or to do other nasty things if Obama doesn't block Senate Bill 1039. And that tells you what are the priorities. Everything else for Putin is just irrelevant, and he's very happy to give bits and pieces that are not affecting his grip on power.
The Khodorkovsky case was mentioned. I'm curious, on the ground, how much has this case been a rallying cry for regular Russians? Do they see Khodorkovsky as a, potential Sakharov figure? Has he gained that sort of reputation on the streets?
Well, unfortunately, no, because to a lot of common Russians have generally a very difficult attitude towards extremely rich people of any merit. What was happening with Mikhail Prokhorov during the past elections was, it's also a difficult situation because at first everyone thought that he would get, say, 2 or 3% of the Russian population of the vote, and in the result he got, I think, officially 7 or 8.
But in Moscow 35 probably.
He got in Moscow, in Moscow people say he got around 20, and they state that in reality, if you cut out the falsifications, he got around 12. So there is kind of the educated class of professionals living in big cities who could accept such a figure as the head of the country, but of course the majority of Russians would have a very hard time accepting a billionaire as the head of the Russian state. So of course, Khodorkovsky, among educated circles, among people who are into political matters, Khodorkovsky is a person of enormous respect. But I think he would have quite a hard time having a public career, attempting to run for president. Mm-hmm. He could form a successful party for the Duma, for the parliament, but that's about it.
Denis, or Garry?
Yeah, I think Piotr is right, stating that any man of this kind of wealth in Russia is not accepted by population. That's one extreme, but on other side, anybody who spends so many years in jail has tremendous respect. So I think that Khodorkovsky, just somewhere he belongs. I think it's probably never happened before, to these two categories. And I'm not so sure which one will prevail, because every month he spends in jail adds to the sort of the second obsession of minds of Russians, because people who stay in jail, especially for so long, it means they stay there, for defending truth. So I think, his reputation has been growing not only among educated people, but of course, I mean, it's mad to imagine, the political career, just on the very top is quite hard. But, Russia is a country of extremes. I mean, it's just, Sakharov was not known at all to the Soviet masses. And I think the role that Sakharov played as a moral authority could well be played by Khodorkovsky, because the same political and intellectual circles, I think they will have tremendous respect for the man who suffered so much from Putin's injustice. And also, I think Khodorkovsky case, killed any notion that justice did exist and will ever exist in Putin's Russia.
To add several words, I have to say that we see the evolution of Khodorkovsky views, because we follow his articles that has been published all these years, and from a certain oligarch, he returned to a, I would say, even leftist thinker, and it is quite amazing. His image is definitely changing.
Well, you only have a few minutes left, so I wanted to pose a question to the two artists on the couch. In 1976, I'm sure you know, there was a band in the former communist Czechoslovakia called the Plastic People of the Universe, and they were arrested for disturbing the peace. And it was the following year that Václav Havel, the former patron of this forum, gathered his colleagues and wrote Charter 77, which led to the fall of the communist regime in that country. Do you see a similarity between the legacy of that band being arrested And what role can artists play in bringing down an authoritarian state structure?
As a playwright, I have to tell you that I'm facing tremendous difficulties getting theaters in Moscow, in Russia, to stage my political plays. And they are sort of harsh, and they are, what I want them to be. And they're what, theaters in Russia will not allow, simply out of fear and self-censorship, which is widespread among, the cultural elite, unfortunately. We're facing that all the time right now in the protest movement. So it should play a big role. I hope that will somehow change. Part of the reason I'm there now fighting for that too. I'm going to try and get that play up no matter what it takes.
Well, there's the Belarus Free Theater, which stages performances in the woods and apartment buildings. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, if we change the format a little bit, if we have to do that, we'll do that. And that can influence people significantly, obviously. But it will be a struggle. It will be a fight. In Putin's Russia, it is a fight, and it's a fight we're prepared to take on.
Well, I think a very interesting point to mention here is that the Plastic People of the Universe, a couple of days ago, they've announced that they will do a benefit for Pussy Riot, the existing members. So that's, of course, a very big, very good thing. And as for artists involved in protest, well, if we talk about respected figures in, respected public figures in Russia, probably the most respected public figure in who can be called an opposition figure is our friend Yuri Shevchuk. And he's a singer, he's a leader of the DDT rock band, and he's like this absolutely acknowledged by everyone in Russia, right? So, for example, this wonderful episode where in the Nazi pro-Kremlin youth camp, they tried to make people stamp on portraits of various opposition figures, and these young people who are really very controllable and can do about anything they're told to do, they stamped on every portrait except for Shevchuk's. They said, no, Yuri can be wrong, but he's not a bad person. So this enormous respect that Russians can develop towards artists, musicians, and people of culture will, of course, in the end, help very much when it comes down to drawing a way for Russia to radically change.
Thank you all for being here, and best of luck in your struggle. Thank you. Thank you.